Good day and welcome to the Vigilate Dialogues. I am your host, Shaina Archer, inviting you to the National Boardroom. If you are new to our program, Vigilate is the Virgin Islands national motto and means to be watchful. Our mission is to have dialogue or conversations about issues affecting our quality of life and how we solve them. The Vigilante Dialogues is broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube on the first and third Thursdays at our new time at 7 p.m. and replayed on CBN Radio FM 90.9 in the Virgin Islands. Today's topic is going to be one where, in celebration of International Women's Day, which is on March 8th, I decided to get some sister friends together and let's have a conversation about us as women. The theme this year is break the bias. And one of the key points that they talk about is that the rise of women is not about the fall of men. And I think a lot of persons, when they hear us speak about the need for gender balance in our society, there's a lot of misperceptions about that. So tonight we're going to start, and into this month, we're going to start to clarify that and hopefully bring some more understanding about what this topic is. So, without any further ado, I'm going to ask my guests tonight to introduce themselves, starting with Miss Kezia.
Hi everyone, my name is Kezia Allen. I am an interior designer, I practice architecture, and I'm happy to be here.
Welcome. This is your first time. I won't be your last. Remember that. All right. Good. My good friend Kishmet.
Blessed love, good evening. I can hear you too clearly, Shayna, but I'm Kishmet Brooks. Blessed to be here.
Okay, we're hearing you. Okay, so it's good.
That's good.
All right, and Miss Dewindt.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Kimra Dewindt. I'm happy to be here this evening. For those of you who are watching, most of you know me. I am the guidance counselor at the Elmhurst High School, Senior Division 11 grade. And as Shayna said, we're not here under any umbrella, just sisters having a conversation.
Awesome. All right. So let's get into it, ladies. I sent you some talking points before, and I think one of the first things I want to start is, from your perspective, and when we talk about the role of women, what do you think would be how you would define the role of women in our society? I'll start with you, Kimra.
Oh, okay. The role of women in our society today, um, there's a lot of roles that we as women in our society have taken on. We're both mothers, we're wives, we're entrepreneurs, we're business women. We're a melting pot of roles within our society.
Mhm.
You can't define who we are unless you know our background and where we as individuals come from.
Mhm. Awesome. All right, Kezia, what's your
Um,
thoughts?
I'm with I'm with Kimra. That's the first thing that came to mind. We're entrepreneurs. I'm not a mother. I just adopt other people's kids. Um, yeah, or I think our roles is more of an individuality thing. So
Mhm.
if you come with your role as just like your purpose and you're just being a human, you come with your own personal role for the society. I think that it is not for me. It's not so much a women role or a men's role. I mean, there are roles, but then you have this like fine line where things get like people trying to remove the gender roles from society, and it's just kind of it gets a little fuzzy. So it's like I
Mhm.
feel like I have to tread carefully when I say role of a woman, like you put a woman in her place. It's like, do we still have a place, and what's that place? And like it's subjective is how I
Mhm.
feel about it.
Mhm. And I'm glad you brought that up though, because then that's really one of the things where when we talk about break the biases, that there's still a lot of stereotypes in our society, as well as the wall in terms of what a woman can or cannot do, or is expected to do. in certain things. And I know for me growing up, at least in my household, we didn't have double standards. I saw them elsewhere, but it was something where whatever, let's say for example, I was taught to cook, my brothers were taught to cook. I was taught to wash and clean and do the things that would be traditionally what we would teach our young women, because then they were expected to be housewives and mothers, but not necessarily career women. So we see where things have changed. So what are some of the biases that are still out there that you think, whether you've seen them or actually experienced them, when it comes to us as women in the society?
Um, there's the gender role, like you say, in the house where we're looked at as we're supposed to be domesticated, like stay in your place. Like it almost takes away the fact that we have a brain that works. It's like the minimum they bring us all the way down to just a few list of things, and you do those well. You cook well, you clean well, you do domestic stuff well. And it's like if you try to apply your skill set somewhere else, it's just kind of like, you sure you know what you're talking about? You have to prove that part of yourself because they don't come natural for you. You know what I mean? You're just a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so then it trickles into like the business world, especially if you step outside of, if you like you're doing hair and stuff, nobody questions your ability. But if you, Shane, I know, like if we step into like the construction industry, they kind of look like, oh, no, who this woman is. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
they're looking at you when you're speaking, and they're looking at you can see that they're questioning. Do you know your stuff? It's like we're always being questioned. Like we always have to prove ourselves beyond, yeah,
That
Mm-hmm.
just always proving yourself in the workplace.
that's true. When I'm driving into town in the morning time, right there by Clarence Thomas, there's some construction that's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, every once in a while, when I pass, a woman would pop up or a young lady would pop up who's there walking, and I would say in my mind, man, long ago you would have never seen a female shoveling or
Mm-hmm.
doing stuff that they perceive as what a man should do. Um, that's a man's role. But when you look at these women doing this stuff, you can see that they're not doing it because it's a job. They're doing it because they love what they're doing. The young lady I saw her, I think they were moving one of it was a backhoe or something, and she was hanging on the outside while
Mm-hmm.
it was moving, and I just had to smile, and I said, look at that, the young people in our society. They, to me, because I'm in the school system, you see they are more driven, especially the girls now, driven to more hands-on stuff. They realize, you have conversations with them and tell them there's a lot of money in trade, learning a trade, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like the technical schools. You see some of the girls doing plumbing. But before, when I was growing up, you only see men doing construction. The women, they do the, as Kezia said, the domestic work, whether it's working at a restaurant, so on and so forth. You hardly, or you never seen a man in the restaurant being a waiter.
Mm-hmm.
You always see women. You go to the grocery stores, you never used to see a man as a cashier. There were women, but now in our society, it's pretty much, there's this little snippet in between. You see
Mm-hmm.
a male waiter, you go right way, you see a male cashier. So when they talk about gender, gender bias and gender role, you should not limit or differentiate who should do what.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone should have the opportunity to choose a career and be the best that they can be in that career.
Yeah. And I was about to ask because really and truly, no, I think women have taken on so many different, when it comes to careers or jobs. Are there really any ones that would be relegated just to a particular gender, or we've come a long way, as it were, to being more balanced in our views? Or do we still have persons saying to you, I think Kezia alluded to it, that, you shouldn't be you're kind of like an anomaly if you're in the construction field.
Mm-hmm.
The perceptions that are there. Do you think our
True.
society is balancing, or we kind of tolerating? Because that's one of the things for me that I'm concerned about, because every once in a while you hear some chauvinistic or stereotypical comments drop from both men and women
True.
in
True.
terms of what you should or should not be
Should
doing.
not do it. Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, if I can do it, I would go ahead and do it. I don't care who say what, you
Mhm.
know, and that's what our society needs. If a female wants to own a trucking company, why not? If she wants to open up a construction company, a plumbing company, why not?
Mhm.
We women should not have to be the ones who work in these companies. They should be able to own these companies. It,
Yeah.
the sky is, as we said, the sky is the limit. If I
Mhm.
want to own a car company, open up a factory, anything, we can do it. Sometimes we get a little bit too timid or
Mhm.
comfortable in what we're doing, but deep down inside, we know this is not what I want to do. I want to open this business. This gentleman down the street have a business that I know I can do. Why can't I open my own business too? You
Yeah.
know, we have to think of come out of that comfort zone and take
Mhm.
a step forward and be able to do the things that we know. My mom, listen, my mom is a jack of all trades. She do men, women, she do it all.
Whatever had to be done.
Yeah, whatever have to be done, she do it.
Mhm.
She would not sit and wait on you to do it. She would get up and make a move. By the time you, the man, come, it's already done. He just would have to probably fine tune it because of his strength, but
Mhm.
it's done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Kezia, what was your experience?
I think it is the bias is breaking. Mostly because this generation is more like they're more open-minded. One, or just my opinion, we're more open-minded. And then I think back then, especially being in touch or the BVI, or career options were so limited because of where we are. So
Mhm.
then you would pick like safe careers that you could thrive in while you're here.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I think that what kind of helped separate it, like, and made gender role jobs. But then
Mhm.
I find like this generation is a lot more like open minded in terms of entrepreneurship and saying I could do whatever I want, and they don't
Mhm.
always limit themselves now to like, if I'm gonna be in the BPI, I could only do banking or computer tech or architect. Like, you don't go to like, you very rarely saw people go into like the creative stuff like graphic design or animation and stuff like that, because you or
True.
even media, because media wasn't a big thing back then, so you always pick a career field that was safe. But yeah, I think the bias now is breaking because people are venturing in whatever field that they want to venture in
What?
now. Back then, I don't think you would see any female doing much architecture. And I remember when they had like people, like they had like more females growing in the architecture. You always hear like it was talk as if it was like a big deal. It's like, oh, you know, the new female architect, not the new architect, the new
Mhm.
female architect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was just
And the
no, it's just
gender.
kind of like when you yeah, but I feel like now it's getting better
Mhm.
because people are more open-minded. I find most of the criticism to come from, and I don't blame them, it's mental conditioning. And unless you
Yeah.
know how to realize you have a mental conditioning and to uncondition yourself from that, they don't know. So I don't hold them like, too accountable for having thinking like
Yeah.
that. But I find it mostly that it's the generations before us is that
Mhm.
still questioning the roles of
Why are you doing
what
that?
women do in a
Why are you
specific
going
job.
into that
And
field? Yeah.
so I'm listening to Kimra talk about women who do construction companies and all that stuff. It's like, yes, because before, if you saw a woman with in the construction, she probably just a receptionist. So you know what I mean, the secretary.
Yep.
Like, she's not doing anything
Or doing
rugged.
payroll,
See?
the non dirty work.
Yeah, the desk stuff, the things that
Yeah.
men don't want. Men don't sit at desk. How dare them? That's our job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that, because then that's to show that stereotypes that are there, but they're so unconscious. Because until we start to call certain things out as bias, I know
Mm-hmm.
One of the key things for me that I had to start to understand is the fact that, we are in a patriarchal society. That's basically where, men did everything, ran everything, made all the decisions, and that's passed down from generation to generation. So there are still some men that have those very traditional views that say, women shouldn't be working outside the home because that will take away, I guess, from their ability to do their responsibilities as a wife and a mother. But when it came to men, there was no limit to what they would be capable of doing. Because again, there was that perception of, women were limited in all capabilities for whatever reason. Some of it was even they were trying to base it as biblical, and I think that's why it probably stuck around for so long because of religion reinforcing these types of views and what it meant.
Yeah, but
We're gonna skip around in terms of our talk. I was gonna ask about in terms of the VI sorority, but I want to skip that for a minute and talk about, so what do we see, from a woman's perspective? What are the top three problems that we think families are facing today? Or if you're in business, what are those top three things in terms of a business as a businesswoman? Kezia, you want to start? I see you there pondering.
I'm trying. Could you ask the question one more time?
So what are the top three problems, or what you see as the top problems that families are facing? So as a woman, as a female, and it doesn't matter whether you're a mother or not, because we're all part of families in some way, shape, or form. Whether we're sisters, we're aunts. I tell people I was an aunt first. I'm going to be a mother one day, but I'm practicing on my nieces and nephews and all my godchildren. So that's where I'm doing. So that's right. See, I tell you. So we have families already as well. But what are some of the things that when you look out or have conversation with friends and family that we see as challenging to families today? Oh, Kimra, you can jump in as well.
one of the things, how would I say this? We know off the bat, cost of living.
Mm-hmm.
Cost of living is extremely high in the BVI, and it's off balance in terms of the amount of money you make with the cost of living. Um, Majority of the households, it's just the female that is there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what else? And the raising of the children. It should be a balance where the mother and father should be able to raise their kids.
Yeah.
But in our society, it's from my perspective, especially in the school system, when there's an issue with a student, who do you call?
Mm-hmm.
The
The mother.
mother. The
Mm-hmm.
mothers always show up. They are the ones who have to be the disciplinarian. They are the ones who have to make sure the kids and everything is taken care of. So where are the fathers?
Mm.
Again, cost of living. If you're in a single household with the mom, she has to work. She has to buy the food. She has to do everything. You know, that's
Yeah.
what I see as in our community as an issue or problems that arise for our young men,
Mm-hmm.
because the father figure may not be there per se. There are some households that have father figures, but still the mothers are the one who still take up the roles. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you go and you call a parent, you see both parents' numbers there, and then you pick up the phone and call the dad because of a situation. Maybe he should be the one dealing with the situation. Oh no, you call the mother. She gonna deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah. So that's a clear example also of the stereotype
True.
that the mother should be the one to call first instead of the dad,
The mm-hmm,
to respond to the situation. Because
mm-hmm.
you're smiling. What's
Yeah,
what
because I'm thinking of what I want to piggyback off what Kimra said, and it is so true. I didn't grow up with in a single parent home, so I won't speak on single parent lifestyle. but there were roles in there as well. So I guess like my dad was, I guess my family dynamics were more traditional. So I saw my dad more as okay. So when I was younger, it was always like daddy's girl, so it was a lot more like bonding. But then as I got older, it wasn't so much like you run and you grab, because it wasn't the physical affection got like less. So and he became more of just a disciplinarian and a financial provider.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of like you don't go to daddy with your problems. You take everything to mommy. If you ever saw like memes that say why everybody always say mommy, 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 and daddy sitting right there, like why you keep calling, why is my name the the name
Yeah.
you keep ringing at. So when I that's that point that came from me, it's just kind of like yeah, it's just kind of like, especially if something happened in the school. No one call my dad. It's like call her mother. Her mother does the domestic stuff type of, it's only
Yeah.
when things get real, and then I can't really say it's all the men fault, because women women feed that part of it too, because if they really want to get or you really want to scare you, they would say, I'll call your father. It's like that's a threat. That's like
Yeah.
that was like a threat in the household, like I call your father, so you stiffen up. So it's like they made them the disciplinarian. They encourage them to be that disciplinarian. They show themselves as soft. Like I don't really, I
Mm-hmm.
could get you in check if I call your dad. That's what he does.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
Yeah.
That,
yeah.
that was never a threat for us. When our mom used to say, and Carla, I'm gonna tell her your father, me and my sister used to watch one another and like, really, we prefer you because he ain't gonna do nothing. He ain't gonna do nothing. We were, but I mean,
And then
some
sorry.
household, regardless of whether you have both parents,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so, there's still always a topsy turvy in terms of
Yeah.
what
One
goes
stronger.
on, the
Mm-hmm.
structure, who
Yeah.
have more power than who in certain areas, instead of it being a balance. Because
Mm-hmm.
like I said, in the school system, I pick it up quickly when you have parents coming for meetings and the conversation that you have. You can see, well, who's in charge of this and who's in charge of that,
Yeah.
and it needs
Yeah.
to have, a balance when it comes
Yeah.
to raising the kids, when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to making decisions at home in terms of whether paying the bills, buying the groceries. Most of the times you see the women in the grocery stores, well, why don't the dad go in the grocery store and pick the stuff up?
Mm-hmm.
They would say, do
Leave
I
the
need to go
woman.
and get, especially men who have to go and buy personal stuff for the women? That is a big issue. Some of them don't want to.
Yeah.
You know,
They're not comfortable.
they're not
Yeah. They're
comfortable.
not
And
comfortable
these
doing
are
it.
things that they need to get comfortable with, because especially
Yeah.
if you have girl children,
Yeah.
these are conversations.
You need to
And they
have.
always again saying that the mom are the ones who's supposed to be having this conversation. No, you as a father can have that conversation too.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
That's
And I
interesting.
want to piggyback
But
on that. Sorry, go ahead,
let
Shayna.
me bring in Kishmet.
yeah,
Kishmet, you with us now?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
good.
I know you expressed some technical difficulties. So the question
Yes.
that we were here discussing right now is talking about what we see are the some of the top challenges facing our families now. What are your thoughts on that?
The top challenges facing, well, I could speak based off of my experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
That my children, whatever they want, they feel like as the mother, they have to come to me for it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it comes to like money wise, if they need something for school, and they ain't. And I say to myself that this is a wrong thing, especially my son seeing that I have to be the provider, because that will put in their mind now when they get a woman, she's the provider instead of the both parents, but basically the father taking up that gap of being the provider.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the issues facing. And another issue facing is the two parents, coming with a mindset of, especially when it comes to disciplining, nurturing, and all these things that they hold in one head. Not I saying yes, you could go, and he saying no, you can't go, because it causes, confusion. They will know who to go to for what, and when, how, and where. So that's an issue we're facing. We have to look back at how our foreparents. I grew up with my grandparents, and the way they raised me, I had
Mm-hmm.
know my place, but this generation, they don't know their place. They believe that everything should be for them, and most of us, we speaking in that way, like, okay, them are the young people, we gotta do this. No, we have to nurture them along with us before we could pass this baton on to them, because we gotta make sure that the fruit that they coming forward with could come to fruition in the right way. Because when I was coming up, I was getting this training from my grandparents. I mean, they allow me to like have parties and this, that, and the other. But when it comes to like opening the presents and the gift, I never got to do that. I had to like go in my books, read the Bible and these things. These people were spiritually getting me ready for a journey I didn't even know I had to take. And when I was on that journey, I was equipped,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
so it's
So
by
what
raising
has
our
changed?
children.
Okay, so and I say along those same line, what has changed from one generation to the next though? What is it that they have their other influences in terms of how we parent differently from how our parents parented us or
Yes,
grandparents?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. There
You
is
know,
a
I had
big
that conversation
influence
with.
because
Go ahead.
mm,
Sorry.
it's a big influence because what I learned that I try to pass on to my children,
Mm-hmm.
they not humbled and disciplined like I was in those times. So they rebelling. They like, when they hit 18, don't tell me what to do. These kind of thing. Like, don't try to run my life. But when I just saying 18 is just a number. You know what I mean? And right now, what we see today is children learning adult lessons during adolescence.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just saying that the other day I had this conversation with someone in terms of what has changed, and I told her I told her the group, parents use this thing. I don't want my kids to have to go through what I went through when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
We had to learn to wash, to cook, to clean, be responsible, all those different things. I told the group I had my first job when I was 12. My mom used to work at a restaurant, and she used to bring home the tablecloths and the napkins. I had to wash them, hang them out, iron them, and I make my own little money, and I had to learn to save it. I get to spend some, but I was able to save some on the side. So I was, saying, well, what it is that you don't want your child to have to go through
Mm-hmm.
that you went through when you was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had to learn to be responsible. And I always said, what is happening in the world now, if we had that when I was growing up, man, I don't think the world would have been able to hold us in terms of all the different things that you seen on YouTube, what you are capable of doing. And they have these things at their fingertips and they're not utilizing it at
Mm-hmm.
all. I said the more information you give them, the less they see. So
Yeah.
how can parents say, I don't want my kids to have to go through what I've been through? Hard work never kill nobody.
And it's interesting because it's something where when you don't have to work for something, you put less value on it. And
Yes.
I think that's one thing that we miss. The second thing we miss is that what we went through made us the people we are today. It
Yeah.
didn't damage us. I mean, some of us, the discipline for some was harsher than others.
True.
I agree with that part.
That,
But
yes,
when it
true.
came to again
Definitely.
taking care of yourself and the importance of that, I see where that was the best thing ever because it made me now put
Mm-hmm.
value on being able to take care of myself. Because when I went
Mm-hmm.
to college, and I look around at people still calling home for stuff because they weren't taught these things while they were at home. So now they're on their own. It's a
Mm-hmm.
challenge for them to make that adjustment. And we need to go back to, and it's not even about a tradition thing, Kimra, because that's just life. From
Yes.
one cycle to the other,
The
there is
other.
always just some basic life skills that we need to make
Need to
sure
reach.
that we are
Mm-hmm.
passing on
Mm-hmm.
to the next
To the next
generation,
generation. Yes.
especially grooming our young women in terms
Yes.
of, it's okay for you to be able to hold things down basically at home and still be a boss at work,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and not have anybody try to diminish you as if you can't do it and you have
Mm-hmm.
to choose. I think they put it on us as if you have to choose. I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but it was at one point it was like you have to choose. So at what point you're gonna stop having a career so that you can have a family.
Mm.
you know have you guys experienced that at any point?
Not me.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
You
I was.
ignored
Having a
I was.
career,
No.
yeah,
I was.
you have to have a career so that you can have a family.
in
That's what
terms
you
of
said.
no in terms of choosing between career and family.
And family. But
Oh,
Yeah.
you can have
yeah.
both. You can
Yeah.
have both because we have to learn how to balance and separate both.
Hmm.
As I was telling him, it has been hard for me to bring work home because home is my home where I have to do what I need to do for my family and my home. And work, I leave my work at work. So when I go to work, I do my work.
Yeah.
It's you can have
But
both. Don't let anybody tell you you have to choose.
Hmm.
You choose life.
I'm gonna tell you
That,
something about that camera, because you might not bring the walk at home, but you bring it home in your mind. And
oh,
sometimes you
no,
might be
sir.
trying to, well, I just do that.
Not me.
I just do that,
I
you know.
shake that
So
off my shoulder and because I
every
know what I'm
time,
coming home to do.
Hmm.
right.
Home is your sanctuary. Home is where you relax and feel comfortable. A total different world from what's going on outside.
Hmm. Hmm.
I do
Yeah.
get what Kimra is saying because I'm there now. It's just kind of like I'm here, I'm present, I'm home, I'm at peace. This is my so everything else is not in my mind at the time. But I do
Hmm.
get what Miss Williams is saying because um on Friday you're thinking about how fast the weekend is blowing over, and by Sunday you're thinking of all the work you have to do Monday to Friday, and then Monday night you're thinking about go to bed early because you're thinking all you have to do Tuesday, you're thinking about what you got to do Wednesday, and you just end up in this cycle of thinking about all that you have to keep doing, and then that's just healthy. Where Kimra probably is right now is just like a healthier place to be, where you just like when I'm here, everything else gets closed off. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
thinking about anything else. I'm thinking about
No.
family here right now in
Hmm.
this place.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
can I go back a little bit on what you
Sure.
guys were touching on?
Go ahead.
I just want to defend my generation just a little bit, okay? And I'm not even like I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle of like the generation that you're speaking of, and then in the middle of the one that's before. So I don't know if when you say I don't want my children, I don't have children again, but if when you say I don't want my children to go through what I went through, is it like when I hear that, I'm hearing parents who say like they had it probably financial struggles. And it's like, I don't think it's absolutely mandatory that you should implant financial struggles on the financial struggles on your children. I do agree
Yes.
that there's some groundwork that needs to continue on as generations to teach them the
Yeah.
importance of going from here to there. You don't just skip passing life from here to grand success. I mean, every now and again, somebody just get that lucky shot. But I agree that something needs to be taught to them to teach them the appreciation. They might have lost appreciation, and in that sense,
Hmm.
it's because we grew up in a generation where things not all fault. Technology grew, and we
Hmm.
just born in a time that technology was much more advanced. So the things that you had to do in your time to get to that place, it's already in front of face. So when you hear an older person talking about spoiled generation, we have no idea where your frustration is. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's
Because you
like
haven't gone through the experience.
it's
Yeah.
like we don't know. You just look mad to us, okay? You just look mad and salty to us. So I remember going back to like Montserrat, and I grew up and we had washing machines already, but my
Mm.
aunt didn't invest in a washing machine, and she's looking at me. I'm like telling me I need to wash the clothes. I'm like, oh, and she's like, she give me a board plank, a washboard,
Uh-huh.
and the silver basin. I'm like, I was so that my,
Absolutely.
my 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 bits wasn't functioning. I'm looking at it like. Okay.
What is
So
this?
I'm like, I'm just like swirling the clothes in the water, and she's getting frustrated. And I was like, well, the washer goes in circles. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
what to do with that.
Oh
And then, but
wow.
I did remember seeing my mom every now and again. If something had a stain, she would hold it, and it would make like this skip noise. So I'm trying to make the noise. I was like, this ain't working either, and I don't even know what I'm doing with my hands. I was like, I can't do that. I don't know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
I don't, and it's like that's because you grew up in a time where you didn't have a choice. I have a choice. Okay, I
Mhm.
have a choice. Eventually, my father just bought a washing machine and showed how to use it. But it's like it's like you can't be too frustrated at us because we have things at all. We have computers. We have like things are. We have a lot more options to choose from.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the term microwave generation came from, where we expect things quick. It's not a, and there is a sense that we do expect things a little faster because we saw a custom of like things happening fast. You remember back then when you click on when internet and stuff had just came out, and you
Mhm.
click on something, you had to wait like 4 hours for something to process and load to 100. Now it's just kind of like we click, and the internet speed is so awesome, and it just goes zoop. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like we are accustomed of things moving in a faster pace. So we never had the experience of knowing what it takes for things to move at a slower pace. And that transcends into our personal career lives. It's like we're accustomed of things going places a lot faster. So it's like when you think of your career and where you want to be, your mind is in an operating place of it could happen. I don't have to go through all the long formalities and struggle and all of this to get to this place. It's just, and it's not, and I understand where you could probably teach us. It's like that's where we got all this mental illness from, and probably because we want these things and we can't get, and we get frustrated. We just frustrate
Mhm.
ourselves.
Yeah.
But that is not necessarily always our fault. We could be
Yeah.
taught what you were taught. But it's not going to be from experience necessarily.
And that's a
And that's
good.
just my defense on my generation. It's not entirely our fault. We just born
Yeah.
into this era.
But you gave the perfect example where there was an assumption you knew how to wash on a washboard. Give you a washing machine, you knew what to press, you knew how to set that up. But if we don't teach you how to use the washboard, obviously, what happened will happen. And you're so absolutely correct. So again, it reinforces itself, eh, because again, we're saying we need to, even if we don't have the same lifestyle. So I didn't live necessarily the same lifestyle as my grandmother, right? Because by then, like you said, technology and development and improvements had already come. So she grew up in a generation where candles and kerosene lamp was light. We came along now, and it's like all the generation, your generation and the one after us, because I know about kerosene lamp, but your generation and the one after, no, they that's
They wouldn't know it.
that's something for a
You
museum.
see,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the thing I
So
was telling before. Like, I'm born in the middle of it, so like I saw the washboard, but I
uh-huh.
never used the washboard. So it's just
Okay,
like
I
I
use
know
the
it, I know
washboard.
of it,
Yeah.
but I
Uh-huh.
hadn't had to use it. So it just kind of putting me to use it. It was like I see this, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it.
Yes.
I I always say my generation was a transitional generation because when I was growing up, I had an experience of all of those things as they evolved from the washboard to the wringer washer where you had to
Mhm.
push the clothes through and it come out to the back dry, then
I
you put
saw that one at the top.
that one there. Then you come from where you were washing the dishes outside to have the sink inside now, using the toilet outside to having a bathroom inside. So
Yeah.
me,
You see
I say that,
progress.
that was the transition year. So
Mhm.
where and I always say that because when things happen in life with me, I say, you know what, that's a transition. I can just transition to what's going on and keep it moving.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
so with
And
our
and that's the life skill, I think, Kimra, that we had to make sure that we're passing on
mm-hmm,
down the generation, that we do expose them to the things that we have experienced, so that they will learn the same lessons, but also allow them to now move into what is now the present,
mm-hmm,
and how they, not that they're making things easier for them, but that they use the technology and the opportunities that they have to
mm-hmm.
move to have
True,
even better opportunities than what we had, you
true.
know So, quick radio break. If you're tuned in listening to us on CBN Radio 90.9, you are tuned in to the Vigilante Dialogues. I'm your host, Shaina M. Smith Archer. And with me, I have my sister friends, Kezia, Kimra, and Kishmet. And we are talking today about some sister to sister talk. Basically, I'm going to be doing a series of show over this month in celebration of International Women's Day, breaking the biases. So, back to where we are. Let's talk about the sorority or the sisterhood as we refer to it. Um, and we have these conversations all the time. I think in terms of how strong or is the sisterhood amongst us in the Virgin Islands. I know across any community there will be challenges, but let's kind of unpack this. What is behind of that? Because sometimes we see each other as competitors before we see ourselves as somebody we need to be uplifting and who's in the struggle too, as it were. Where do you think that comes from? And you can share with us any experiences you may have had if you want to. Kishmet?
I think that comes from people one's not looking at the true essence of who we really are as women. We're supposed to be nurturers, teachers, all these positive things. Instead of jealousing one another, we're supposed to be raising and keeping each other head above the water. That is what I know I'm supposed to be able to pass on and teach, and what you're supposed to do the same thing as well. That's how I basically feel about it, you know.
So where does it come from? Where do you think it comes from?
Listen, as I listen to everybody speaking from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next.
Mm-hmm.
If we look back at our foreparents' time, even in slavery, they never forgot God. And every time they get some path of freedom, they took God with them from this generation to that generation to that. But what is happening today? It's in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. But in the beginning of this wall, now we're seeing it coming up without like a wall without God, and the generation that do not know God.
Mm-hmm.
This is the problem I see we facing now, because when I grew up, you hearing these morning devotion, waking you up 6 o'clock in the morning, gotta get ready for. Now you're hearing these kind of different music that don't have no positive thing in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is what we facing,
Mm-hmm.
We gotta be careful what we listening to. We gotta be careful when we raise what it is we putting inside of us, especially the young people. You understand? Because
Yeah.
we need them to understand who they are, their purpose on this earth, all these things. They need to learn and know. You can't go from one generation to the other and to the other, because right now we in a time where children is having children, and they need these fundamental teachings to carry them through the next generation. Because look, I had 10 children. That wasn't easy, but if my grandparents them didn't give me equipped for that, what would have happened to me?
Mm-hmm.
Where would I have been? You understand? So as much as we might think that we need to physically be teaching people, sometimes you have to be able to be spiritually inclined to adapt, because most of what you see me doing with my hands is who I was through with my grandparents as a young girl, that I intake it in my spirituality, that I could be able to do it without anybody teaching me to do it
Mm-hmm.
from at a young early age in my life. So
Okay.
this generation here, we have to make sure that we instill God in their life,
Mm-hmm.
that they carry him to the next generation.
Okay. All right.
All right. I I agree with what
I
Kishma said
I I
in the
agree. Oh,
beginning.
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I agree with what she said in the beginning when we said we have to lift up each other. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we have to, if I know something, especially on my job, if I know something and you don't, nothing is wrong with me teaching you or showing you. But in the back of some person's mind, why do I need to teach her that? Suppose now there's a position, that I want, but she wants it too, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's like we're battling against each other instead of holding each other's hand and pushing us forward, especially
Yes.
women in our society. We have to walk together and pull each other forward for the betterment of ourselves as well as, you know, the company or the business that we work for. There's
Mm-hmm.
too many, sometimes too many people, they criticize and condemn you, they talk bad about you, especially the people in that you're working with. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we are all there to do the same thing, and let us pull and help each other.
That's
I
important.
agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kezia,
Um,
you were saying something?
I'm with Kimra and Miss Williams. I mean, God is always the thought card, but in addition to that, I think we have developed maybe it's not a bad thing. Oh, but we have developed independence to a toxic level. So maybe when Kishmet said back in, could take it as far back as slavery. They needed each other back in them days because they were oppressed. They didn't need they stuck together.
Mm-hmm.
But as time carried on, people get their footing. Women have jobs. Everybody have a life. They have a life, and they could function solo. So it's not like maybe you couldn't function solo back in slavery days, and it still goes on now. So
Mm-hmm.
if you fast forward all the way to current times, you would hear women say things, or people like, I don't need you to feed me, you to pay my bills, like you I need oxygen, and they get real petty with it. It's like you're not having you in my circle bonded with other human being is not is a plus. You're not a need. You don't see community and bonding and stuff like that as a need. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I even like I said, I grew up just in that time too. Like people walking around, you go, you're knocking your neighbor door for sugar and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like that community aspect of like bonding together and creating sisterhoods or brotherhoods or whatever is not as strong, and friendship are not as cherished because you look at people as disposable. And I know that I wasn't here for Omar, but I heard the stories and people would have listened to it. After Omar, they bonded together as if I I hear people who were enemies who were best of friends. And if that didn't happen, they would have stayed your enemy. So
Mm-hmm.
people are forced, when forced, they come together and they support each other. But because we don't have to, it's an option. We don't look at it as a nest of like something to cherish, something to value, something to build upon. So
Mm-hmm.
and it trickles off into not just your friendship, but like your personal relationship.
Relation.
You would,
Mhm.
I think that's why women pop off at men and say, I don't need you. I have a job. Like you can't bring something to the table I didn't really bring it to the table. So we just make, and if a friend piss you off, it's just kind of like, well, that's the go. And we say
Yeah.
things like no new friends. It's just like a toxic level of independence
Mhm.
Yeah.
that you don't need other people,
You
and it
know,
goes
I
right
hadn't
back to your mental
thought
health.
And
That's
we
why
about
it
need
it.
and we
suffers.
need
I
each
hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
we need each
Yes.
other.
Yeah.
Very much. Very
Yeah, yeah,
much.
we need
You
each
know,
other.
it's also
Very
something
much.
too where I think we were taught this even probably as teen girls more so than preteens, where I know I grew up in a generation where, as Kishmet said, you have to be careful the songs you're listening to. And I'm going to date myself because some of y'all will know the song. Some won't. There was a song when I was going to high school that went share your man with another woman, and it was such that that was what the competition. Well, I should say that's where the competition kind of started, right? Because then it's like you're trying to prove yourself or outprove yourself to get the attention of a man,
Mhm.
right? And with that, no, men play off of that because then they give you the attention, but then they're also giving Mary Sue
So
and
yeah.
Kezia and Kimra and Kishmet attention too,
Mhm.
and
And it feeds their
it's
ego to
right.
watch y'all fight.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. Because we
Foolishness.
we all see the videos that people viral. The videos when men fighting don't go viral. You
No.
realize that.
No.
It's two women tearing up a restaurant is the one that catches everybody's attention, and we get
Yes.
a good laugh off of it. But it
Mhm.
says something about our society
Mhm.
that we have to fix because it's fundamentally wrong that we
Yeah.
think that is something to be entertained by, you know. So subliminally, like you said, Kimra, the competition or the
Mm-hmm.
strife that's in the workplace where,
Yeah.
I'm basically trying to sabotage you because I want the promotion or to get the attention of my
Mm-hmm.
boss, is a part, I think is a part of it,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
then I don't want you to progress beyond me. I think that I
Mm-hmm.
want, that's something, if you have it, it means I don't have access to it,
Mm-hmm.
rather than seeing it as if Kezia is successful, I'm successful because Kezia is going to remember me
Mm-hmm.
when she's
Right.
successful, right?
Right.
Yeah. Do a
I
or
hope.
do a hand up. I help you, and you help
You.
somebody else. Hand
Yeah,
up
Yes.
or
yeah,
pass it forward.
yeah.
Something,
Yes.
but that
And
doesn't
with that,
happen.
your community continues to
Needs to
rise
grow.
it
Mm-hmm.
rather than the crab in the barrel mentality,
Yep.
where, for me to rise, I have to push you back.
Drop back down. Mm-hmm.
And that's the toxicity right there, Kezia.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. It
you're
is.
referring to. That is so true.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. That I can do
The
it
every
on.
man for themselves.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can do it on my own because I
Own.
can't trust you. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, if you're really looking out for my best interests.
Mm-hmm. Or they
And
would
Yeah.
bring you and you teach them everything, and then after they believe they've known it, they got it all or know it all. There's when
mhm,
you see
Yeah.
the dividation start to happen. You stop talking, or
True
they don't
colors. The true
want to tell you
colors.
anything anymore because you think you have arrived. Yeah, I have
yeah,
taught you all that you need to know, so now here it is. Now I am gonna step forward and leave you where you're at.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I like what Kishmet said, because at the end of the day, what she's speaking to is about the godly values
Yes.
that our community again was raised on,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of love, respect, kindness, forgiveness,
Obedience.
Yeah.
obedience.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Obedience.
these are the things
Humbleness.
that we were
Humbleness.
taught are
Mm-hmm.
important when we were growing up.
Yeah.
You know, because those, and again, those
Respect.
laid the foundation for our character. That you're looking out for your neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
and not trying to figure out how to, get everything for yourself, and
Self.
those types of things. So
Facts.
yeah. So guys, our hour has almost gone.
Already?
Yes, and we're gonna have to do a
Okay.
part two, because I wanted to get on to
Wow.
those other topics in terms of, where do we see the future of BVI, where we see ourselves in the next few years. But what are some, we're gonna close out though and talking about, we've identified some of the issues, but what are some of the solutions? And Kimra, I didn't plan to do this, but since we had a conversation about you being a member of a club that focuses
Mm-hmm.
on women, I'd like you to touch on that as part of the solutions that we need to have at the table in terms of how
Okay.
we strengthen the sisterhood and the sorority in the Virgin
Yes.
Islands.
I'm a part of Zanta BVI, Zanta Tatola. Um I came on board last year. I actually found out about it when I did a rotation at Gender Affairs, and I
Mm,
worked with the then president Marva Smith, and I kind of love what they were doing in terms of focusing on women and children in our community. And as a group, we get together, we sit down, we talk about what we can do as a group to help the women and the children in our society.
mhm,
And one of the things we're doing right now is International Women's Day is on Tuesday the 8th, and they have this thing called Rose Day. You purchase a rose for any female in your whether it's your workplace or just one of your friends. You purchase a rose, and the proceed goes to this group of 13-year-olds who will be able to, I think it's attend like a conference, or I don't want to say the wrong thing. Let me pull it up so I could see the correct where the proceeds will go to. So unfortunately, I'm here looking at, they say we only have 12 roses left, 12 yellow roses left, because we targeted businesses so that they can purchase roses for the women that works in their organization.
mhm,
um, on Monday, we're going to get together to package the roses, and whether we're gonna distribute them or the agencies will come and collect them for their where are you? Sorry.
Okay,
For
so I found it for you. So I'm gonna
okay,
help
good.
you out. So the
Um
proceeds are going towards leaders in the environmental awareness program for girls.
for girls, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. And we do a lot of other things in the community. It's a very outreach group where we again we assist women in need,
Mhm.
girls in need as well. You know, we like I said, I'm new to the group. I'm
Yeah.
learning and I'm enjoying what it is I'm learning as well. And we work with like domestic violence. We help promote no female violence, no violence against children, and stuff like that. So
Okay.
I'm really enjoying the group.
All right. So if they have 12 roses left, but for those who want to order, you can speak to a club member or go
Yes.
to www.zantatotola.org. So and scoop up those last ones. So I'm glad that's a it's been a great response from the community. I actually supported you guys with purchasing a few myself. So I'm encouraging
Yes.
others because it's a way for us again to recognize our
Recognize
sisters, as
sisters.
it were.
Yes.
Even people that just service you, you
Yes.
know, that may not you and them aren't necessarily friends, but that you recognize them
Yes.
for the role that they play in our communities and what that they do. So
Definitely.
yeah, so that's awesome. Well, ladies, I want to thank you for being here. I think we're gonna have a part two, indeed, and pick this up a second
Definitely.
night and probably expand the panel because I know that there's so much still yet that we have to do in terms of work with breaking biases. I was
Mhm.
doing some research looking at what how we measure a bias. So there are different areas, whether it's through economic empowerment or dealing with the job place,
True. True.
women in politics, the whole notion of climate change is also a big issue, and it is so because of one of the things we touched on, that you have a lot of single parent households that are led by women, and if women are then found in the low income brackets, then a lot of things that are going to happen with climate change, they're not going to be in a position to respond to, because they don't have the financial situation to do so. So
True.
it's something where I think even for us as women, we take for granted how far we've come, because it was just in the 1950s, and I think it was 1950 we were allowed to vote, much less now run for office or hold top
Mm-hmm.
positions
Mm-hmm.
in our choice of industry and those types of things. So we want to definitely tonight salute those on whose shoulders we stand, because if they didn't sacrifice for us literally through blood, sweat, and tears, we won't be able to be the women that we are today. So again, thank you for being here, and we will definitely pick this conversation back up another time.
All right.
A word of encouragement for this week, and it fits right into something one of you said. I don't remember who. A flower does not think about competing with the flower next to it. It just blooms. So I want to encourage us again as women, especially here in the Virgin Islands, that we move aside the competition and we move towards now more collaboration and upliftment and encouragement of each other.
Passing it
And
forward.
again, yes, reminding everyone to like our Facebook page if you haven't already, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel. So whenever we schedule the show, you guys will get a notification saying when we're going to be going live. And you can always share the videos after or go back. If you happen to miss a show, you'll be able to see it again. So thanks again to CBN Virgin Islands Radio 90.9 for carrying the show as well. And until next time, let us continue the change in conversation for a better Virgin Islands. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
That's it, love. Good night.